There's a tragedy that happened recently in Florida, and it's really so sad. It's about a family. A man was watching TV programs. I think it's a sport, probably football, and the man was around, in the living room with the family. And as he was watching the football, the man continued to drink. He was continuing to drink alcohol, continues to drink alcohol while having a conversation with the wife. And eventually, there was an argument that started between this couple, and the man, being under the influence of alcohol, pulled the gun on the wife. And the wife quickly instructed the 12-year-old son to get out, call the neighbor to call 911. But before that, the man pulled the trigger on the wife, and the 13-year-old daughter that was in the living room with them screamed, "Dad, not to do that." But before Jack, the man shot the wife and the 13-year-old daughter. And before and after that, before the neighbor, the 12-year-old that ran to call the neighbor and 911 could arrive, the man escaped into the nearby property, which belongs to their parents, in a shed, and also shot himself. And this is really so sad, and that's one of the tragic outcome, very sad, outcome of alcohol, the negative part of using alcohol, heavy alcohol dependence, and drug addiction. And today we are going to be talking, we've talked in my previous videos about you know the impact of alcohol dependence and drug addiction, and we are the concluding part today about treatment and recovery for alcohol dependence and addiction. And my name is Dr. Debbie. Thank you so much for tuning into this channel. I really appreciate it. My name is Dr. Debbie. As I have said, I'm a doctoral prepared psychiatric nurse practitioner, and I'm both certified and licensed in the state of New York and Maryland in the United States. And this video, that is just my interest and part of my contribution to humanity, for educational purposes, for literacy, to bring awareness to people about mental health. And I hope you share, you like, you comment on this video, and pass it to many people so that people can get information and education, and know the impacts of mental health. And my goal is positive mental health for everyone. Thank you so much again for tuning in. And I said today we're going to be talking about alcohol treatment and recovery. And to start with, the most important step in alcohol recovery is the first step, and that is the first step of the courage and initiative, to be free from drug addiction and alcohol dependence. This is, very important. And there are many paths to recovery and several ways to get help. Sometimes it's like rehabilitation program, inpatient admission, and partial hospitalization, outpatient treatment program, intensive outpatient. There are a lot of programs out there that can be used. And also we have Alcohol Anonymous, we have Narcotic Anonymous, that help individuals that want to get out of drug addiction, alcohol dependence, both for the individual, for group, and for family. And as I've said, recovery, for the individual and family starts from admitting that there is a problem. And if there is willingness to change, there are solutions out there, as I've listed some of them. And recovery, from alcohol use, alcohol dependence, and drug addiction, is about the joy of living. Yeah, addiction and alcohol dependence, yeah, it kills, but it can be stopped, if it is being tracked. There are many pathways to recovery if the individual is willing, to take those paths or those routes to recovery. And you can, it's left to the individual, and others, to get out of the hook of alcohol dependence and drug addiction. And I said the first essential step is the step to freedom. So getting help, what are the means? I've said treatment programs, there are counseling, there are mutual aids, there are support groups, and all options for getting help only the person using alcohol or drugs can make the decision. It is a personal journey, it is an individual thing. Yeah, so if an individual makes that decision to get help, the family member can only support or creating the condition to make the decision of that individual depending on drug or alcohol attractive. And when we want to talk about family intervention, a lot of family are concerned, a lot of family, they sacrifice a lot, for their loved one to get treatment and recovery from drug addiction, from alcohol dependence. But as I've said, it still sum up to the individual in question, to admit and embrace recovery. If the person you are concerned about is unable and unwilling to seek help, the relatives should only consider, it's a planned professional directed intervention in an inpatient rehabilitation program for admission. And as I said, most of the rehabilitation program is voluntary. The individual has to agree, the individual has to admit. But at times, if the individual is becoming unsafe, to themselves or to others, then that is when the involuntary can come, which will be inpatient in a mental health hospital. And then when they get, to agree, then they can get to some rehabilitation program that is dedicated, for drug addiction and alcohol dependence. So they during this time, this is a powerful tool for the family if the individual is becoming unsafe for them, because during the time when they are on admission inpatient, they're able to receive education, guidance and support with a focus on getting them to accept treatment for recovery from drug addiction and alcohol dependence. The recovery process, as with all chronic illnesses, everyone needs time to recover and regain health. For both the individual and family member, there may be relapses or breaks in treatment. That's okay, that's fine. Yeah, it's just like a little child that is learning how to walk. There will be times of falling or mistakes, yeah, that's okay. Yeah, and then but when the child is learning to walk, when they fall, even though they are little kids, they don't understand life, they don't remain there, they get up, they still want to make another attempt. And that is how they process the journey into alcohol recovery is. Yeah, so that's the person should just be focused on the recovery, on the goal to get treatment and gets healed from alcohol dependence and drug addiction. And on the long-term recovery, why addiction to alcohol and drugs has no known cure, unfortunately, the disease can be stopped once the individual abstains from alcohol and other addictive drugs. And that abstinence is really the big challenge, which really necessitates the individual to be determined and embrace recovery from alcohol dependence and drug addiction. And the greatest counsel is never to touch addictive drugs and alcohol, because people get hooked and coming out may be a lifetime problem with terminal illnesses and complications, and even at times a lot of heartbreaks and heartaches. So it's really important to stay alive, to stay healthy, to enjoy life to full potentials in life, to consider the decision how you handle alcohol and drug of recreation or illicit drugs. Prevention of drug use and alcohol, as parents, it starts from parental aspects. If you want to prevent our loved ones from getting into drug use, drug of addiction, into alcohol dependence, it starts from the home, it starts from the family, it starts from the parents. And it's extremely important for parents, in efforts to protect children from alcohol and drug use, that there are things that needed to be done as parents. This is important, that parents has to be involved in preventing alcohol drug problems for children in families. And when we ask why is is this important. There's so much focus on kids. Alcohol and drugs are free. Like studies and research has found that the longer an individual postpone the onset, the first use of alcohol, of tobacco, or other drugs, the less likely that individual grow up to develop addiction on other lifelong problems, including depression. Yeah, because the age of curiosity, peer pressure, because the parents are guiding, so these children, these kids, they are able to successfully navigate that phase of their life without getting addicted or getting um, to embrace drug addiction or alcohol dependence. And then the power of parents, when we talk about power of parents, it is in studies too that parents are the most powerful influence on their kids when it comes to drug research. And studies have also shown that 2 out of 3 kids, like from age 13 to 17, say that losing their parent respect is one of the main reasons why they don't drink alcohol or use like recreational drugs like marijuana or other drugs. So parents are, they have great influence on their kids, and they should use this influence to encourage or promote the children, the influence, the respect that the children have from them, to prevent them from getting into drug of addiction or alcohol dependence. And at times in this generation of young people, it is some parents are afraid to be labeled bad parents, because of peer pressure. It's not good, it may not be easy. Yeah, but it is important for parents to be focused on the long term. Yeah, but some parents, because of the fear of a negative reaction from the young folks, to keep them from doing what is right. It is the right thing to prevent your kids, from future heartache, like the impact, of drug dependence, alcohol dependence. It will be a long time you've heard of series, of news in recent times that kids, even growing into adulthood, dependence on drug of addiction, ended, ending the life of their parents or their loved ones, despite all the sacrifices and all the love and every effort that they've made. But if all that effort that they were making in the adulthood, or when the drug addiction and alcohol dependence has become like a chronic terminal illness, if they've coped it, during this childhood, the forming life, the formative life, when they have, more impact, more influence in their life, to curtail the behavior, the excesses of those children, probably all those disappointments and even involving life, ending their life, we might have been prevented. So it is important, don't be afraid, to be the bad parent. The children will grow up to really appreciate you, to really thank you, um, for saving them from such a lifetime tragedy or chronic illness that when they get hooked, it is really difficult for them to get out of that. So it is important, that we allow rules, and then the reason for not to use alcohol and drug. We should explain it. It's not enough that to say, no, don't take drug, don't take alcohol. You have more life experiences than them. You've had, a lot of story, tragedy, and all that. So explain that to them that, oh, we don't entertain drug addiction, alcohol dependence in this family because of this and this and this. And then the children will understand when you give the rule and you let them know, the reason why, that is not allowed in that family. So they will embrace your rules with understanding, because you all be on the same page. That is for the safety of the family, that you don't want to encounter any heartache later on in life. And then it's important to, as parents, to connect with a child's friend, to pay attention to who your children is hanging out with, who is coming to the house. Get to know your children's friend. Encourage them to bring their children, to bring their friends, to the family. Encourage your child friend, to come to your house. Invite them to dinner, for dinner. Make them feel welcome. Encourage your child as well to invite friends, over to the house, and make connections with their parent. That is the friend, your children's friend, connects with their parents. And as you get to know your kids friend, you take the opportunity to introduce yourself to their parent as well. This is a great way to build mutual support, and share your rules about alcohol and recreational drugs, with these young folks. And it will be easier for you to call them when your kids, your son or your daughter, when they are outside, to make sure they are wheresoever with, they are under the supervision of a responsible adult or parental supervision. And also it's important, to promote healthy activities. Help your kids and their friends, learn how to have fun, and fight off the dreaded, oh, I am bored, because a lot of young folks, they are full of energy. Yeah, in the fast-paced world that we live now, you cannot just tell children, sit there and all that, they feel bored. So, but you can replace that with some other healthy activities, like games, exercise. And it is important, positive physical for their physical and mental health benefits. Encourage the young folks, to become engaged in school and community activities such as music, sport, art, or even part-time job. The more these children, the more they are engaged, the more they are active, the less time they have to get caught up in the pressure, from peers to drink alcohol or to get into drug addiction. So engage your kids in meaningful, activities, activities that are beneficial. Yeah, like we have listed already. And then it's important also to establish clear family rules about alcohol and drug use. Setting specific clear rules, in the family is the foundation of parental efforts in prevention of kids getting into alcohol use or drug addiction. And one, we want to talk kids, like, rules like you will not allow kids, even when they are little, to ride in a car with someone who's been drinking alcohol or using drugs when they are under the influence. That endanger the individual and as well as the kids. And apart from that, you are training the kids too, that this is a lifestyle that you embrace. So you said no to that, and the kids know, no, in our family, this is not allowed. Also, that brothers or sisters, we not encourage kids to drink or use drugs, or kids will not stay at a kids party where alcohol or drugs are present. Yeah, it is whatsoever you allow, it means you embrace it. So if you permit it, that okay, kids, you can go there, and these children, even in their formative years, they see young folks, they see adults, they are drinking, they are drunk, they are intoxicated, they are misbehaving. They embrace that as a lifestyle that is acceptable in this family. But when you say no to that, it shield these young folks as they are growing into adulthood. And also kids under 21 will not host parties in your home without parental supervision. When you do that, it limits, it restricts, the ability of these young folks to bring alcohol into their get together, into their parties without parental supervision, and they don't get hooked up into all these vices. So consistent, and we have to be consistent in this enforcement of these rules with consequences, because if without consequences, then the rules have no value and it's not going to work. They are not going to take you serious. Yeah, so there have to be consequences to that, and make sure that that is effective. And as a role model, when we should set a positive example as parents. From kids perspective, what to do is more important than what to say. And like I've said, I always back up most of my saying. With studies have shown that parents who drink alcohol or use drugs are more likely to have kids who drink or use drugs. And I've seen that experience apart from study or research. Even in my own practice, I've seen a lot of individuals that, you know, they will say that, oh, I learn it from my parents, I grew up seeing my parents, you know, either of them or both of them using alcohol, you know, driving under the influence of alcohol. In fact, there's, you know, a lot of story that, you know, that you see, you know, that it links up, and science too has talked about it, even that the genetic link up, you know, when the parents drink, there's a possibility that the kids also are going to get involved in drugs of addiction or alcohol dependence. So make sure you yourself, the same rule that you are keeping for, that you keep the same rule that you are laying up for the kids. And also it is important too, you know, like for children, you know, that you, like we said about supervising them, you know, checking on them, tracking them, you know, not like a, like, you know, like you are doing it negatively, but just to show up for them, that you care about them, that you cherish them, that you love them, and you don't want anything bad, you know, to happen to them. You are just concerned about their safety. And then once you do that, you know, kids are likely, you know, to abide with the family rules. And yeah, like we said, to keep their activities and track their lifestyle. And also, like for adults too, we should not be careless about prescription drugs. Most of the children, they get into drug addiction from prescription drug of their parents. Make sure we keep prescription drugs, we keep them safe. You know, they should be safe, they should be locked up in a place where it's not accessible to children at home. And when we realize that any of the kids by chance are introduced to alcohol, to drug, that we get help. We don't wait, don't waste time, don't cover it. Yeah, that is important that you get help for such kids as soon as possible. And we should not be ignorant, you know, of personal experiences, and then ability to provide family leadership to prevent you know, alcohol use in the family. So most of the prevention lies, you know, on the parents, and that's why I've taken time to enumerate the part that the parents can help to safeguard their kids. Because once you do that, and you know, the kids, they pass their formative year, like I said, the delayed, you know, later years that they get introduced to drug, they've already made up their mind, they've already formed their personality, their habit, and it is very hard, you know, for them to go outside there. Why during the years of training you'll be explaining to them the consequences, the children are going to keep to that even in their adult life, and they are going to be responsible adult. They are not going to get into alcohol dependence or drug addiction. And this, you know, will save everyone, both your children and yourself too as parents, from heartaches, yeah, from peer pressure, from peer influence. And you know, they will be responsible adults. So it is important, and I hope you learned something. And as well, for those that are already into it, you know, to seek help, we have enumerated that, so that they can live an enjoyable life and fulfill their potential. And I hope you learned something. And there are so many programs out there, and you can check my bio, you know, to learn more, to connect, and share this video that many people will come to, especially the preventive aspect, so that we have a safe and happy family and positive mental health. And again, my name is Dr. Debbie, your mental health clinician. And as I said, this video is for educational purposes, for literacy, for everyone to have positive mental health. And until I see you on my next video, please be safe and stay good. Bye.